The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our second session of Sage 300 Malaysia e-invoicing. We have conduct similar session before. I think back then in early this year, and in today's sessions, right, we hope we can explain more about this Malaysia e-invoicing and how you as a Sage 300 customer can get benefit from this implementation. As I have shared with you previously, right, I think in previous session, Sage is planning to develop this module locally. So it will be our Sage 300 Malaysia customer will enjoy this benefit. Okay, and it will be custom made based on Malaysia rules and regulation for e-invoicing. Just want to share with you some of our Sage background experience. Okay, in terms of Sage globally, we do have e-invoicing network, which has been worked and used by Europe customer. And in terms of Sage Asia locally, right, we do have our Sage Singapore 300, Sage 300 Singapore e-invoice module that has been run for more than 4 years, since 2019. And we hope with all this experience, we can handle this Malaysia e-invoicing when it's come to the development letter. Okay, joining with me today, we have Jin Fang, our Sage Asia Vice President, and Sharon. She will share with you later what are the latest promotion from Sage Asia for this Malaysia e-invoicing. And myself, Siti, as a Senior Software Engineer for Sage Asia. Without further ado, right, let's start our today's session by looking at the agenda for today. Okay, in the agenda chapter, we will take a look at what is this Malaysia e-invoicing. As you all already know, right, probably most of you probably heard about this one. Okay? This Malaysia e-invoicing will be handled solely by LHDN, our Inland Revenue Board Malaysia. Okay, and we will go through what is this e-invoicing according to LHDN perspective, and what are the format accepted by Malaysia government for the e-invoicing. When we talk about the format, right, it's a file format that you need to submit. When you do submission to LHDN, right, it's a file format that is only accepted by LHDN. Okay, we will go through this format. What is this format when we come to this slide later. And type of transaction. There is a 4 type of transaction that you need to submit, that you need to report to LHDN to prove your income and expenses. Okay, and the timeline for implementing. Okay, I know most of you, right, at this moment probably already know when is actually your timeline, when is actually your phase to start implement e-invoicing. But I just want to share with you how actually LHDN will contact you based on your annual turnover. Okay, what kind of method they are using to access your company annual turnover. Okay, and then in the next slide, right, we will take a look at some of the fields that was required for this Malaysia e-invoice. Okay, there is more than 40 fields that is mandatory and is required by Malaysia government. And some of the fields, right, is not available in standard Sage 300. Okay, I will share with you how with this new module that we are going to develop, this Malaysia e-invoicing modules, right, I will share with you how we're going to cater those fields that is not available in Sage 300 standard screen and make it available so that you can put your entry in there and then key in and store it, the data. Okay, and the e-invoice submission. Okay, you as a company, your company as a taxpayer, LHDN is actually gave you 2 options for you to choose how you want your e-invoice to be submitted. Okay, we will go through what are the pro and con for these 2 submission. Okay, and the workflow and how Sage 300, the API works. Okay, I will go through with you. I will share with you how actually the workflow for this e-invoicing and how from Sage 300, you can actually generate your invoice in sales module or AR module and then submit to LHDN directly without any human intervention. Okay, and the next slide, right, which is the second last slide, is a frequently asked question. Some of the questions that has been asked to us before, and we have the answer. We want to share with you today during this session. Okay, and of course, if you have question, you may raise it during Q&A session. Right. So without further ado, let's start our session by looking at the definition of Malaysia e-invoice according to LHDN Malaysia. What is e-invoicing? All right. according to LHDN, right, is a digital representation of a transaction between a supplier and a buyer. Means that, right, in your current normal business process, okay, you will create invoice in Sage 300 ER module or OE module. Okay, then after you have posted your invoice, then you will send to your customer via email or via attachment for their approval. Okay, but with this e-invoicing coming in, okay, according to LHDN, every invoice that need to go to your customer need to get a validation or some kind of approval from LHDN before you can actually send it out to your customer. Okay, and according to LHDN as well, right, the validation will be done simultaneously, instantly. Means that you don't have to wait for another working hours or another working days for your invoice to get validated. Okay, imagine in one day you have 150 invoices you need to send out to your customer. If the validation itself, right, have a lag, have a delay in the validation itself, your e-invoice got a delay on the validation, then it will definitely jeopardize your business transaction, your business operation. So LHDN is actually confirmed, LHDN is actually guaranteed that the validation of your e-invoice, when we submit to them, right, will be done simultaneously. Okay, and they also mentioned that there is a measurement and a safeguard itself to make sure every invoices that is sent out to them, right, that is sent for the validation to them, will be a safeguard against data tampering. It means that nobody can actually touch your data, nobody can actually change your data. Okay, so we go to the format that is accepted by IRP, by LHDM. According to them, these are the two formats that is accepted by them. It's either by XML file or by JSON file. Means that, right, when you send your e-invoice to LHDM, these are the two formats that is allowed, that they can accept. If you are sending to them, right, in PDF file or document file or Word document or even Excel or JPEG or any attachment, either than these two, 100% guarantee your invoice will get rejected. I will show you, right, how using Sage 300 API, your invoice that you have generated in Sage 300 will be converted into XML file or JSON file. Okay, we will see this when we come to workflow process. All right, 4 types of invoice transaction to prove your income, your company income and expenses. Okay, there is a 4 type according to LHDN. The first type is actually invoice. I know most of you probably definitely know about this. What is this invoice? Okay, it's basically just a commercial document that itemizes and records a transaction between a supplier and a buyer, including self-issuance of e-invoice to document and expenses such as a foreign supplier. Okay, second type of invoice that you need to report to LHDN when you have this kind of transaction is actually a credit note. Okay, any document that you need that is issued by you as a supplier to correct error or apply the discount or any issue related to previously issued invoice, right, then you need to issue a credit note. And the third transaction is actually a debit note transaction. It's a similar cases if you need to do some changes on previous invoice that you have sent to LHDN, then you need to issue a debit note. If there is additional charges out from previous e-invoice, then you need to issue a debit note. Okay. Similar case, if you have a refund transaction, then you will also need to report this transaction to LHDN to prove your company expenses and income. Okay. All right. When to implement e-invoicing? As I already told you, right, I believe at this moment, right, most of you already know when is actually your company need to follow which phases. And according to LHDN, right, to ensure a smooth transition and provide you, your company as a taxpayer, a sufficient time to adapt, they are actually divided it into 4 phases. Okay. For each, the timeline, right, is actually based on your annual turnover in 2022. Okay, in the year of 2022. If, for example, right, some of the example, if you just started your business in 2023, you definitely don't have 2022 data, okay, because your business just started in this year, right? So for this case, right, your timeline will be on the 1st January 2027, okay? if you are entitled to obligate, okay, if after LHDN access your company annual turnover, right, and they found that, oh, you are actually entitled for this e-invoice in which phases, they will actually send a notification. I'm not sure what type of notification, probably via email to your company contact person, okay, to inform you that you are obligated to follow e-invoicing and in which phases. Okay. Now, let's see how actually LHDN will access your annual turnover. How will LHDN will determine under which phases you are actually, your company is actually need to start implementing e-invoice. Okay, this is according to them. This is the information that we get from them. Sage definitely don't know how actually they can get this kind of information. So it's definitely belong to them, and we just want to share this kind of information. Okay, so the first one is actually they are based on your audited financial statement. Okay, so if your company have a financial statement, okay, and LHDN will actually based on annual turnover or revenue stated in the audited financial statement for the financial year 2022. Okay, and second criteria, what if you don't have this audited financial statement? Then they will move to second criteria. It will actually based on your annual revenue reported in the tax return for year of assessment 2022. Means that, right? Every year, I mean, me also as a taxpayer, I need to fill in e-filing, okay? I think from the e-filing itself, right, there will be based on the tax return. From the tax return that we submit to them every year, so they will be based on the tax return in the assessment year 2022, okay? And for the condition number 3, right, changes of accounting year for financial year 2022, okay? They will actually based on the taxpayer's turnover or revenue that will be prorated to a 12-month period for purpose of determining the e-invoice implementation date. All this guideline, right, all these criteria is actually for them, for LHDN to determine when is actually your starting date for e-invoicing. Okay. All right. Next, we will go to the required field. Okay. There is a more than 40 fields that is mandatory. Okay. Out from this, right, up until 53 is only an optional field. Okay. I will not go through one by one. What is this field? What is this field? What I want to highlight to you, right, is the information. If the fields that is not available in your standard Sage 300. For example, for fields number 1 and 2, it's very easy for you to get this information from Sage 300 because the information is there. But how's about information number 5, number 6, and also number 9? Okay, this kind of information is not available in standard Sage 300 module. Okay, so for this information that is not available, right, point number 5, point number 6, point number 9, and the rest of it, right, it will be catered in the new module called Malaysia e-invoice, so that you can have your data key in inside this Malaysia e-invoice module. Okay, and when you actually generate your e-invoice, right, before you actually submit to Malaysia government, LHDN, system will actually pick up the information from this field, okay, from your company database, and display it so that you don't have to key in another separate information. Okay. Right. So apart from the required fields, right, there is also 11 additional fields that is applicable for certain transactions. Some of the example, right, if your company, if your customer shipment address is different from the master data, then you will need to fill in all this information. But I believe this one is already catered in standard Sage 300. Okay. Right. So now, as I mentioned to you earlier, your company as a taxpayer, LHDN is actually providing you with 2 options. One option for you to submit your e-invoice, okay? The first option is the My Invoice portal. It's a portal that is hosted by LHDN Malaysia with no cost. I think at this moment, right, if I'm not mistaken, this portal is still under development. Okay, and according to them, right, this portal is very similar like our e-filing. Okay, LHDN e-filing, where every year we need to submit our tax return to Malaysia government. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, right, there is a form for you to fill in. So every time you create a new invoice, right, you want to submit your invoice to LHDN, then you need to fill in all the required information that I have shared with you previously. Okay, the second option, right, is actually LHDN gives software vendor like Sage, like us Sage. Okay, option to integrate direct submission with their LHDN server. It's a call application programming interface. Whereas, for example, right, in Sage 300, with this application API, application programming interface, or API, you can actually submit your invoice from Sage 300 directly to LHDN without any need to go to this My Invoice portal. Okay, I will go through with you in the next slide what is the pro and con for these two options. Okay, right. So in this table of comparison, in my left side is actually My Invoice portal, a portal that is hosted by LHDN and is a free for every taxpayer. And in my right side is the API that is Sage is going to develop data and with a direct integration with Sage 300. Okay, so the first criteria is the single invoice creation. Okay, if you are using My Invoice portal, okay, every time you create invoice in this portal, right, you need to define all the required fields every time you create a new invoice in My Invoice portal. If you leave all the required fields blank, right, then definitely your invoice will get rejected. You will definitely hit an error message or validation message. Okay, but if you're using Sage 300 API, the direct integration that we are going to develop later, right, all the required field is auto-populated by system. Okay, every time you generate your e-invoices, so that you don't have to worry about required field anymore. Okay, and second criteria is the e-invoices batch creation. All right, according to LHDN, right, they are actually allow a batch creation for e-invoice, but if you're using My Invoice portal, right, LHDN will actually come out with a layout, with a defined layout file, and then you need to download this layout, okay, and then fill in all the necessary information, necessary invoice information. Then only you can go to My Invoice portal and upload your invoice into a batch creation. Okay, if you are using Sage 300 API, right, you can also submit your invoice in batch, but there is no layout required. All the fields, again, all the required fields, all the information that is required for this e-invoice submission will be taken care by the system itself. Okay, and submission status. Okay, after you submit your invoice, you definitely want to see what is my status for my submission. Is it okay? Is it not? Or is there any error? What's the submission? Okay, if you are using My Invoice portal, right, only registered user able to check the status. Okay, the reason why is because I know in our current practice, I mean most of the company practice, right, if you are registering with government website, government body or government website like this My Invoice portal, right, okay, you will only assign 1 or 2 people from your organization. Okay, only those people that has access to this My Invoice portal can actually check your submission status. Okay, but if you are using Sage 300 API, right, the API, you can check your invoice submission status via Sage 300. Okay, at the same time, right, you can actually allow multiple users to have access within your organization to have access to this module. Okay, so only people, if you're using this API, only people that have access to this module can check your submission status, your e-invoice submission status. Okay, and the next point is actually security concern. For the security concerns, right, it will be, if you are using My Invoice portal, LHDN will definitely take care on this portion. Okay, but if you are using our Sage 300 API, the API itself, it will be taken care by Sage 300 program. Okay, and the next criteria is actually the e-invoice notification. All right. When you submit your invoice to LHDN, okay, LHDN will actually send you email, send a notification email to the registered user, okay, to inform them there is a notification. I mean, your invoice is ready, your invoice has been validated, or your invoice has get rejected. Okay, those notifications, right? If you are using My Invoice portal, it will be sent via email to the registered user. Okay, and if you are using API, Sage 300 API, okay, the notification can be received by the API itself. And once the notification is received, right, it can be displayed, it will be displayed on your Sage 300 screen, and you can also choose to email to multiple users within your organization. So everyone that is involved with this invoice can get information, can get notified that your invoice, on your invoice status, okay? And the last point is actually on the support. Okay, if you have issue during your invoice submission, okay, then you need to contact LHDN. If you are using My Invoice portal, right, there is no other way. You need to contact LHDN for any support issue. Okay, and if you are using Sage 300 API, right, you will get support from Sage Asia partners. And eventually, right, if your partner cannot solve it, right, then it will go back to our level 2 support, Sage Asia level 2 support. Okay. All right. Now, we are going to the workflow and how actually the Sage API works. Okay, so the first one, right, the first step is actually on the invoice creation and submission. Okay, I want to explain to you how actually the API works. Okay, from your Sage 300 system, okay, then you will need to issue invoice or debit note, credit note, or refund. These 4 types. If you have these 4 types of transactions, right, then you need to issue your invoice, this transaction, via your Sage 300 sales module. It's either OE or AR module. Okay. Once you have created your invoice in Sage 300 and your invoice has been posted, okay, then when you click on submit to LHDN, okay, Sage API will actually convert your invoice, okay, into XML or a JSON file. Okay, you don't have to worry about this one because as I mentioned to you earlier, right, only these 2 formats is accepted by LHDN. If you are submitting your e-invoice in using another format like PDF or document or Word, 100% for sure it will get rejected. Okay. And then after your invoice has been converted into XML or JSON, right, then Sage API will send to LHDN Malaysia for the validation purpose. Okay. Just some take note in here, right? Since this one is either, the final format will be decided later by Sage. Okay, whether we want to move for XML or we want to move for JSON. Okay, this way you don't have to worry about this file format as long as the format that we are submitting to LHDN is between these 2 formats, right? Then we are good to go. Okay. All right, and the second step, validation and notification. Okay, so what happened after LHDN has received your invoice, your e-invoice? Okay, and according to LHDN, your validation, the validation of your e-invoice will be done instantly. Okay, so you don't have to wait for another 1 working hour, 1 working days. Okay, okay, and LHDN will actually validate your e-invoice. Okay, and if everything is okay, right, they will actually send to the API a validation link with IRBM unique number. Okay, same case, if there is any error within your invoice, okay, it will also be sent to Sage API. Okay, once the API receive your invoice, right, or your error message in here, right, the status will be displayed on your Sage 300 screen. It will be massaged, it will massage your data in here, right, and will display the status on the Sage 300 screen. So you as a supplier, you as a customer, you don't have to wait for your notification to be received by LHDN, okay, because it will be done instantly in the Sage API. Okay, similar case, when LHDN return the API, the validation link, they will also send a notification email to both supplier and buyer to indicate your invoice has been successfully validated. And according to them, right, the reason why they send both notification, the notification to both parties, because they want to enabling timely action. so that both party can take action on this. Okay. All right. So the next step is actually sharing of the invoice. Okay. What happened after you know that your e-invoice has been cleared? Okay. You can now share your invoice to the buyer. Okay. There is no LHDN involvement in this space. Okay. It's only you and the API and also the buyer. Okay. After you know that your invoice has been validated, no error is found, and you are good to share this with your buyer, your customer, okay, you need to click on the share button. Okay, and after you click on the share buttons, right, the API itself will generate your invoices into PDF format with a QR code attached and sent to buyer via email. Okay, why we need to generate your invoice into PDF format? Okay, this is according to LHDN. Okay, why we need to attach a QR code? This format, this report format, right, is actually coming from LHDN. This sample is okay. We will develop the report with this format, okay, with the QR code attachment. No logo will be available in here. Your company logo will not available in here. The reasons why LHDN emphasized to put a QR code is because when your buyer receive your invoice here, right, in a PDF, okay, they can actually scan this and actually it will bring them to my invoice portal. So they have to log in and it will display all the invoice information in here. Okay. And upon receiving your invoice, right, buyer actually have 72 hours to reject or cancel. Okay. According to LHDN guideline, there is no guide, no word mentioned on the accept. Means that, right, within 72 hours, if there is no action from your buyer, your invoice will be automatically accepted. Okay, LHDN will treat your invoice as accepted. Okay, and what if my buyer found, right, within my e-invoice in here, right, he or she found there is an error and need to reject this. Okay, we will see this in the next step. Okay, step 4 for the rejection and cancellation of e-invoice. Okay, if your buyer found your e-invoice got any error and they want to correct it or they want to reject it for some reason, okay, they will actually request for rejection with a cancellation or with a rejection reason. They need to state a reason for this rejection, okay, and send to LHDN. Okay. And then LHDN, when upon receiving your buyer request for rejections, right, LHDN will send notification to the Sage API. Okay, and once API receive this invoice notification, this rejection request, right, okay, it will actually massage the data and will display the message in Sage 300 screen so that you as a supplier can see that your invoice has been rejected by your buyer. Okay, and similar case in here, right, once LHDN receive this notification, request for rejection from your buyer, an email will be sent out to both supplier and buyer. Okay, the reason why in here, right, after you receive notification of rejection, you will probably need to reissue a credit note, and the process of issuing e-invoice is repeated as step 1. Okay, all right, so now we are moving to frequently asked question. Some of the question that has been asked to us before, and we have the answer for it, and we want to share with you what are the answer for this. Okay, so the first question is, will there be any penalties if I didn't comply with Malaysia e-invoice? The answer is yes, and it's very similar like GST, SST, custom SST. Okay, if you are, I think if you not, there is a penalty if you didn't follow some of the SST 028. I think if you didn't follow some of the rules and regulation, there will be a penalties for that. Okay, so and according to LHDN, if you are not comply, if you didn't follow this Malaysia e-invoice, right, there will be such penalty. But there's still, I think they still strengthen this kind of idea, and the details will be released later in the next guideline. Okay, and okay, there is 72 hours time frame for buyers to reject supplier invoice. How this 72 hours calculated? Okay, you have seen in previous slide, right? I did mention to you for your buyer to reject or cancel your invoice, right, there is actually have 72 hours time frame for them to do that. Okay, this 72 hours, right, is actually a calendar day basis, means that it is include weekend and public holiday. Okay, so if you are sending your e-invoice to your buyer on Friday, then the next 72 hours will also include Saturday and Sunday. So I think you better plan your when actually you want to send your e-invoice to your customer. Okay, otherwise they don't have time to reject, or they don't have time to review your e-invoice. It will be auto accepted after 72 hours finish, right? The time frame finish, right? Your e-invoice will be auto accepted. Okay. And question number 3, how Sage 300 will handle additional field required by LHDN, such as supplier's TIN. Okay, as I shared with you previously, right, those fields that is not available in standard Sage 300 module will be handled separately in a new module called Malaysia e-invoice, which is specifically for Malaysia customer and specifically for this Malaysia e-invoice. Okay, and it's a very popular question. Question number 4, I do a lot of businesses with B2C. Okay, actually, yeah, B2C. How do I get my customer's TIN? Similar case for overseas buyer who don't have TIN number. Okay, yes. For example, if you are running a restaurant, if you are running a food outlet, okay, customer came to your shop to dine in. Normally they didn't provide you any TIN number. I will not simply give you my TIN number. Okay, and how actually you want to grab your TIN number, because this TIN number is a very critical, it's a very mandatory, and it's very critical for LHDN to verify your e-invoice. Okay, and this question actually has been asking a lot by so many people, and according to LHDN, right, the answer is they will come back with latest guideline on how to address this issue. So at this moment, we don't have any solid answer to answer your question. If you are doing B2C, right, we don't have any solid answer for this. And we need to wait for LHDN to come out with a latest guideline to address this issue. Okay. And in the next slide, right, I will leave this session to Sharon. Okay, she will explain to you some of these questions in this section. Okay, Sharon, over to you.
Okay, so let's move on to the F&Q questions. Okay, I believe a lot of Sage 300 customers actually want to know about all these questions. Okay, next question will be, how can I implement Sage 300 e-invoice module? Sage will only develop e-invoice modules for version 2023 onwards. Please make sure your Sage 300 is upgraded to the latest version. Next questions, how can I know what is the version of Sage 300 I'm using? So I believe a lot of users might not know what versions that you're actually using. You may go to your Sage 300 system and click on help, and you will see about Sage 300. Look for system information to view your Sage 300 versions. So as you can see on the screen below, on the red color box, you can see the version of the Sage 300 that you are using. Next slide, please, Siti. Okay, next questions. What can I do if Sage 300 I'm using is not version 2023? Please contact Sage to find out how Sage and your business partner work together to get your Sage 300 upgrade to version 2023. You can actually call us at our Malaysia toll-free number at 6018 00 813-153 or email us at sagecover.asia@sage.com. Once you reach out to us, we can actually check whether what versions are you in and work together with your Sage partner. Next question, what will be the pricing for the Malaysia e-invoicing module? Sage will announce the pricing one is ready. So with customer that with valid Sage customer, with Sage customer Sage cover, you will be able to purchase this module with additional cost from Sage. Next questions. What should I do if I don't have a valid Sage cover? Yes, you should actually contact Sage at our toll-free number 601800813153 or email us at sagecover.asia@sage.com to get a quotation to prepare for the version 2023 upgrade.
Okay.
I think that's the last questions. Over to you, Siti.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. So now we are moving to Q&A session. Lynn, can you
Yes.
help me to answer? Yes. Yeah.
So it's a Q&A time, and please voice your question at the chat panel. We will read out the first one. For some of our users, when they are the foreigner supplier who will upload the invoices.
Sorry?
Siti, the first question is for foreign supplier who will be uploading the invoices.
For foreign supplier. Okay, so if they don't using Sage 300, right? Okay, then they will have a first option, which is use My Invoice Portal. Then I think the My Invoice Portal, if they are registered, I'm not sure how actually overseas buyer can register with Malaysia government. Okay, so if they are registered, sorry, Yifang? Yeah.
I highly suspect this question is asked, right? If let's say I'm foreign company and I sell to Malaysia customer, then do they subject this e-invoice requirement? So I'm not so sure whether LHDM mentioned on that, whether they cover, let's say I'm a company in Singapore and then I sell something to Malaysia customer, then do I need to actually upload to the LHDN for this e-invoice format?
Okay, it's a good question.
According to LHDN, right? So if you actually purchase, if you are a taxpayer and you acquired services from foreign supplier, right? You have to issue your own self-invoice. That means you have to, the supplier will give you the invoice, then you yourself as a buyer, you have to issue your self-invoice. And then after that, you upload this through to the LHDN. Siti, over to you.
Sorry, Aline, can you help me to reach out the question? The next question?
The next question is, has IRBN determined the length of each of the fields?
Okay, so for the length of each fields, right, it will be available in their SDK. Okay, for each field, I think the information will be available in next October this year. Okay. Next question, Lynn.
Okay, so the next one is very interesting. This customer currently, they do not keep the TIN and the SSD information of our customer. Now, with this kind of arrangement, any recommendation on how we could obtain such information? What is the benchmark approach?
Okay, again, if your customer don't want to share their TIN number, right? Okay, this question actually has been asked before. And according to LHDN lady, the answer is they will come out with some kind of measurement, some kind of tools for you to check your customer TIN. But this is still under discussion within them. So we don't have any specific or solid answer for this actually.
Okay. The next question is the submission real time?
Yes, according to them, it's a real-time submission. Sorry, when you submit your e-invoice, right, it's a real-time submission. Yes, and the validation also will be done simultaneously.
Okay. The next question is, the generate certain number is to create the invoice number from the system portal, or we can use our own invoice?
Okay, there are two types of unique number, invoice unique number. One invoice unique number is actually from your Sage 300. Another, the IRBM, when LHDN come back to you with the validation unique number, right, it's actually a unique number that running to that invoice alone. That is specific to your e-invoice. Okay, that unique number will be generated by LHDN system, not from us.
Okay. So the next question is, what if this is just related with the question just now, the foreign supplier? The same customer is asking right now is, if let's say the customer are overseas.
Okay, I think this is similar to what I have shared with you. Okay, it's a very popular question, but unfortunately, from our side, right, from Sage side, this question has been asked, but we don't have any specific or solid answer at this moment, because LHDN is actually, they are still iron up this kind of mechanism. They want to come out with a latest guideline to address this kind of issue. If you're a supplier or if your customer is overseas customer, right? Okay, then they will come out with a latest guideline to address this issue. How actually you can actually still send e-invoice with this with your overseas supplier TIN number. I'm not sure how they're going to handle this kind of address this kind of issue, but according to them, right, e-invoice is not only for local, but it's also for supplier, for overseas supplier.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. The same customer is asking two questions. I break down the two parts. This customer is asking, can we use our own invoice layout instead of the IRBN layout?
Okay. Is it when you want to send to your customer?
Yes.
The answer is no. According to LHDN, right, even if you are using our Sage 300 API, there is a strict format that we need to follow. And inside that report, right, we need to attach the QR code. And the QR code is actually consists of your IRBM unique number, which your buyer, when your buyer receive or your customer receive your invoice, right, they can actually scan the QR code and then they can view the invoice in the My Invoice portal. Okay.
Okay.
So to answer this kind of questions, right, no, I will not recommend you. Okay, the API, right, will come up with a standard PDF report.
Got you. The same customer is asking, how about in what scenario? Please share with us in what scenario will the invoice get rejected in IRBN?
Oh, okay. What type of scenario? For example, if you didn't key in your supplier TIN, your company TIN number, or if you are entitled for SST, but you didn't enter your SST registration number, okay? Or even when they have I'm not sure whether this kind of validation is happen or not, but when we do submission, I mean, I just want to share some of our experience when we handling Singapore e-invoice, okay? There is also a validation on the amount itself. If your amount is not tally with the discount or with the your final amount is not tally with the tax, okay, with the tax percent, our SST tax percent, 6% SST, okay? If it's not tally, then it will also get rejected. This kind of scenario will be handled by LHDN when they do the validation, okay?
Thanks, Siti, for the 4 scenario that outlined for rejected in IRBN. The next question is this Sage API usable for Sage S3? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Siti.
I think Jinfang probably can share about this.
Yeah. I already answer. So basically, right, if you are actually customer, we will also do the e-invoice for Sage X3, and as long as you are already Sage cover, you will be able to enjoy this e-invoice for Sage X3 as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next question is on the invoice when it rejected by the buyer. So the scenario will be, will A, the invoice automatically being cancelled and treated as now as a void status, or B, option B, that invoice is still valid, but Sage API will automatically issue a credit note to cancel that invoice.
Okay.
I will take this question for now. So
Thank you.
I think basically for Sage perspective, right, as based on all what City has been sharing, which LHDN haven't come back to us a lot of detail. Our first task is make sure their minimum requirement is met, okay? And definitely if we have an extra enough resource, we also looking into make it as much as possible for the convenience for the user. But the first, our resource will put in to make sure we are able to meet the timeline. So for this one, I think we will based on like when the guideline is come out, and then based on the resource we have, and then we will see whether we will do it automatically. But I think first, right, this is more we need to follow the LHDN guideline. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Zinfa.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next question. What if we submit the e-invoice to IRBN, but we provide the invoice without the IRB and QR code to our customer? Now, is this considered non-compliance since technically we had sent the data to the IRBN already?
Okay, good question. Right, again, right. Okay, if you are using our Sage 300 API, right, there is no way for you to change the layout format because the layout is defined from Sage. Sage will be defined the layout. Okay, if you are missing the QR code or you are missing, if you want to customize all these things, right? I don't think it is possible. Okay, but I'm not sure in future, we probably will allow, we will have to discuss with LHDN first. Is it necessary? Is it really we have to follow their format, or we can actually custom the format, the sample report
Yeah.
to
I
another?
think the short answer for this, right, City, I can say again back to just now a bit of same question. I think the first, right, we need to make sure comply with HHDN's requirement and make sure we are able to meet the timeline. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move to the next question. What is the posting process with e-invoicing module versus our ARAP module in Sage 300?
What is the processing process?
Posting process.
Posting process. Okay. If you are Sage 300 customer, right, when you want to create invoice in sales module, like for example, OE module or AR module, okay, after you have created your invoice, then you need to post your invoice to the journal, okay? After, okay, in terms of Sage 300, the new Malaysia e-invoice module, the new module that we are going to develop later, right, it will only grab those invoices that has been posted. If you haven't posted your invoice yet, right, it will not grab your invoice, okay? So that's why you can do a submission when it's listed outright, your invoice that has been posted and ready to be submitted to LHDN. It will display to you in the screen, in the listing of e-invoice. Okay, then you can choose if you want to submit it by batch or if you want to submit it individually. It's up to you. There's an option for you to do that. Okay, and yes. So after you click on the share button, I mean, if you click on the submit button, your invoice will be submitted to LHDN. That is a two different process in here. We are talking about two different process. Okay, I hope I can answer your question.
Okay. The next question is now, when a company A is from a tier 1, which is over RM 100 million, they have implemented the e-invoice and sent an invoice to their buyer, which this buyer yet to implement this. Now, how will this be implemented? Because the buyer itself have not implemented. So can they accept or reject the e-invoice or not?
Okay. I just want to share with you, right? At this moment, what we can see from LHDN guideline, from our IRBM guideline, right, it's only on the sending portion. Okay. So you as a buyer, there is no word mentioning on receiving, but I believe LHDN probably want to integrate this receiving portion in the next phases. Okay, so if you are a buyer and you receive this kind of e-invoice and you are not yet entitled for this e-invoice, okay, you can actually volunteer to adopt, to start using your e-invoice early by using my invoice portal. Or if you want to, yes, you are a buyer, then you have only one option, which is my invoice portal. Then you can request for rejection. If you want to reject your supplier invoice, then you can use my invoice portal. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Siti. Let's move on to the next question. The 6300, is it complement?
Yeah. I will take this question. So I guess this is asking Sage Building Accounting. I think now should not call Sage. I think maybe it's the previous Sage UBS product. So 6300 is another product which is not complement to Sage Building and Accounting. So that is so that is the answer for this question. Yeah.
So it's two different products.
Yeah, so 6300 is not complement to Sage Building and Accounting, which in fact actually I guess because this product we have disposed to the Access Group. I think they call Access called UBS Building and Accounting. Yeah.
Okay. This is the next question is, so do Sage have any experience in providing the e-invoicing services to Singapore brokers?
Brokers. I think, okay, so if let's say you are aware, Singapore actually implementing PayPal e-invoice. Okay, this PayPal e-invoice currently is quite different what the LHDN is doing for the e-invoice, mainly for tax purpose. Okay. And in short answer, yes, 6300 in Singapore, we are comply whatever IMDA, actually Singapore government agency, actually require for the e-invoice requirement. And on top of that, we also, if there is a government agency, so if this Singapore broker, actually they adopt the Singapore government e-invoice, our 6300 is ready. Okay.
Okay. So this is Siti. So this is regard. There are three questions related to 72 hours. Now I read out the first question. If we send out invoice to LHDN on Friday 7 p.m., the 72 hour, is it on 6:59 p.m. on the Monday?
Sorry. Okay. First thing first, I want to verify, right? The 72 hours is after your invoice has been validated by LHDN. Okay, it's not when you submit to LHDN there is a 72 hours time frame gap. No, it's a 72 hours for your buyer or yourself as a supplier to cancel your invoice. Okay, and your buyer to actually reject or cancel your invoice. Okay, this time frame is mainly for your buyer to reject or to cancel your e-invoice. Okay, and sorry again, Lynn, question?
Yeah, so it does
it's
not mean
on the time, right?
Yeah, it's not according to the Monday 6:59. It's after LHDN validated, then it's considered. Okay, the next question is also related here. After the 72 hours, like you mentioned, the rejected times, can the buyer still reject the invoice after the 72 hours or not?
Okay, for this kind of questions, right, as I mentioned to you earlier, after 72 hours, if there is no action made from your buyer, made from your customer, then your e-invoice will automatically accept that. Okay, and if you want to create another cancellations, right, then I think you need to talk to your supplier, and then your supplier will need to issue a credit note.
Okay.
For this. Okay.
Okay. So the similar question is asking about the credit note. Can we request a credit note after that? So the answer is being resolved by Siti, her comment. Okay. So now is what is the implication of issuing a non-validated invoice to customer? Is this validation a compulsory prerequisite or not?
As I mentioned to you earlier, right, during Q&A
Yeah,
session,
I think
everyone
I will
cannot
take this one. Yeah, because based on actually this LHDN, right, if your revenue hit the threshold, it means you must issue, if I'm not wrong, city every single invoice actually sent to LHDN to validate, right? Before, I think that is a requirement, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Every
so that means that if you hit the threshold, you can't do that. And if they caught, right, then it's based on what they want to do, the penalty, whatever. Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so it's a compulsory. The next question is now, if my company have more than one Malaysia SIC code, so how is Sage can resolve this issue?
Okay. I believe, right, in Sage 300, when you create even you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? Okay. When you create company and also entity in Sage 300, okay, one company, one entity will have a different SST registration number. It will have a different supplier TIN number, your company TIN number. Okay. I'm not sure about MSIC code, right? But I believe, right, this MSIC code is Malaysia Standard Industry Code. Okay. It's actually belong to your company should specific to one Malaysia Standard Industry Code. There could not be the different MSIC code unless it's a different entity. Okay. And I think this MSIC code, right, is similar to SST02A. If I'm not mistaken, if you need to define your MSIC code in SST02A also, if I'm not mistaken, or is it in GST? I forgot already. Okay.
Okay. The next question is, I have other billing system to raise a sales invoice, and now the invoice is uploaded by batch into Sage. I want to know whether we can send the invoice to the customer before the sales invoice is uploaded into Sage, which means that the customer have already paid the invoice before the invoice is uploaded in Sage and the API into LHDN platform.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I will take this question. So basically, I think the customer is share, right? Currently, I don't use 6300 to issue invoice. So again, right, if your revenue threshold is hit the requirement, you have to issue the e-invoice based on LHDN's requirement. Okay. So that means your current other building system must be able to actually issue the invoice and send to LHDN based on the format required for validation. Or alternatively, right, actually you have to go to the portal, key in one by one manually. So that is actually the answer. So it's not like whether when you upload, basically this is not a Sage 300 requirement. And for us, right, we will only take care if the invoice is issued out from 6300, should it be AR or OE module, okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah. Okay. That's the next question is, with all the fields right now is unavailable. Now, if we were to collect all this information to prepare for the compulsory fields, how is Sage help us to import all this information into the latest version, which is 6300 2023?
Okay. To answer this kind of questions, right, if you are using the Sage 300 API module, the new module that we're going to develop for Malaysia e-Invoice, right, you don't have to worry to collect where actually my data coming from. You don't have to worry about this data because all the information will auto-populated by the system itself from your company database. So you don't have to collect where actually my data coming from or how actually I can grab this data if you are using our API. But if you are using my invoice portal, right, okay, as I mentioned to you earlier, you need to define all the required fields. There is 40 fields that you need to define before you can actually submit your e-invoice to LHDN if you're using my invoice portal.
Siti, the question is, right, actually there are some of the field require even like currently actually not available within 6300. So the customer is asking, so when those new field require, but it's compulsory, I assume this customer, maybe they have a lot of customer, then the question is that actually can those information, the additional information required, when we have the Malaysia e-invoice module ready, they can easily import in.
Oh, okay. Import into data.
Yes,
I think
it's not like actually gather one by one, that it will be very time consuming. Okay.
okay. Now I understand. Thank you, Jifa. I
Yeah.
think we will come out with this kind of function to import your customer additional field information, so that you don't have to do it manually one by one. Okay, that's a good function. Yep, we will consider this as well. Thank you.
Okay. Because of the timing, we are going to answer 3 to another 5 more questions here. We have a lot. The next question is, this customer have a lot of dealer and they have to give a monthly commission statement. So now, who is responsible to submit the invoice?
I'm not sure how to answer this kind of question. Okay, are you talking about within your organization who is responsible to submit this e-invoice, or
Okay, Siti, let me try to help with this.
Hmm.
Because they say they have a lot of dealer, assume is a kind of reseller, and they will give monthly commission statement. So who will be responsible to submit the invoice? Okay. So if you are the one actually report this, actually capture this revenue, I assume currently you through monthly commission statement, but in fact that is I don't know whether it's your income or your dealer income. So anyway, if let's say this is considered your sales, that means, right, you are the one. But if a dealer sales, right, actually dealer sell to them, dealer will be the one. So actually it's a who recognize the revenue, and it means, right, one normally they should issue invoice, that should be the person.
Yeah, I think that's the correct answer. Thank you,
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is actually coming from the Sage 300 customer. The customer with valid Sage cover, is Malaysia e-invoice is included or we need to purchase separately?
Okay. So currently, actually we are waiting for our global guideline. Okay, but if you are on very Sage cover, you won't expect it will cost you a lot. Okay, so that means, right, I can say for now, this should be the last question you should worry. We will not charge you a lot on that. We are waiting for our global pricing committee give us some of the guideline, but it will not be a very significant amount you need to pay. Okay. In fact, I also want to take this opportunity. Actually, we did some survey. I just want to get all the 600 customers to pay attention. We are going to share the slide. Please use the slide, actually the instruction from the Q&A, right, to check which version you are using for 6300. If I'm not wrong, a lot of customers still use a very old version. So that means even we make key available, you are on old version, but this e-invoice module for Malaysia will not go compatible to the older version. So in the end, you are still not able to comply this e-invoice requirement. So the most important, I think for all the 6300 customer, if you are in this webinar, please quickly go back and check and contact your partner on support. You must upgrade to the version 2023. Okay.
Okay.
For the cost side, it shouldn't be a concern. Okay. Yeah, even charge, it will be quite minimum, just a nominal charge. Okay.
That's a good news. The next question is, my customer may need more than 72 hours to verify the invoice. So can the credit note issue after the 72 hours or not?
Okay.
I
So,
can. Actually, that means you had to either you had to deal and then no. But if it means you had to reject upfront, then after that, right, it will be credit note. But you don't reject, you will assume actually you accept. Then you had to deal with whoever requests them to issue the credit note and then reissue the invoice.
Okay. The next question is, actually there's a lot of short form, but this user is asking what is TIN number, TIN, which we mentioned in our PowerPoint slides.
TIN is your tax identification number. It's okay for all the taxpayer, right? I know you have your TIN number, your tax registration number. It's a identification number. When you submit your e-filing to LHDN, there is a tax identification number that is belong to you yourself. So in this case, for your company, it's your company tax identification number. Okay.
Okay. The next question is digitization, right? So for e-invoice, do we still need to keep the hard copy or not?
Yes, according to for the hard copy, right? Okay, I think we are talking about soft copy first. Okay, if you are using Sage 300, the new module, the Malaysia e-invoice module, right? Okay, the invoice, the data is actually stored on your company database. So you don't have a soft copy for that. Everything you can generate from the system. Okay, you can still refer. And according to LHDN, right, you require 7 years for you to archive your data. Okay, so if you ask me on the hard copy, right, yeah, it's definitely you don't need a hard copy when you have a soft copy, when you can print a soft copy and then make it as a hard copy. Okay.
Okay. So the next question is, if our customer, they are not using Sage, can they still receive the e-invoicing from us who we are using the Sage 300 here?
Sorry, Lee?
Okay. I will help to answer. So basically the question is, let's say I'm a Sage 300 customer, then if I'm already Sage cover and I upgrade to the latest version and I can issue the e-invoice, but my customer is not using Sage 300, can they receive invoice or not? Okay. So like what Siti just already shared. So at this moment, LHDN is more concerned you send the invoice for them to validate. And the rest, right, actually they are not saying through this process also facilitate at least the receiving part. So it really depends on what LHDN is going to do. Again, right, like just what I try to explain, currently this e-invoice initiative under LHDN is very different from what the Singapore implemented based on the PEPL e-invoice standard. So basically it's more B2B or actually sending and then receiving. So this is, at this moment, we don't receive any guideline. If let's say we receive the guideline, then I think we will follow the guideline laid out by them, then it should be able. But currently, there's no specify on this requirement. City, correct, right?
Yes, it's correct. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question, and it will be the last question for the webinar today. If my customer is partnership with few owners, so what is the TIN number that we should ask for?
Partnership with few owners, few partners.
Few owners.
Okay, it depends on who you want to address, who you want to send your invoice to. Okay, then for the person that is received your invoice, right, for the customer that has received your invoice, it's your customer TIN number. Even they are doing a partnership, okay, probably you need to discuss with your customer who is going to accept this invoice. And then you need to fill in their TIN number. I don't think you can actually enter 2 TIN or multiple customer TIN number under single invoice. Okay?
Okay. That is all good for now. And this is, as I mentioned, this will be the last question. I'm going to do a sum out here. Thank you, Siti. Thank you, Jin Fang and Sharon, for everyone for attending today's webinar. We are encouraging our C300 customer and the finance user to get ready for the e-invoicing in Malaysia starting from the June 1st, 2024. And take note, the invoicing module is only available in C300 V2023 version. Should you're not sure, you can see our PowerPoint, the last 2 slides that will tell you how to check the version. And after that, you can actually reach out to our contact point, our sagecover.asia. The email address is there. You can actually send in an email and then we will follow up with a quotation. Or alternative, you can reach out to your partner for follow-up action. Now, once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey and the presentation and the recording video. And we appreciate you can complete that and provide your feedback. Nevertheless, this is not the last webinar, and we will continue to provide any update from LHBN and share with our customer and the user for today. Jin Fang,
I just want to add one point. I just add one point. I already put in the chat say, please go back and check whether your 6300 is on version 2023. If not, please contact Sage or your partner to discuss about the upgrade. And if you are not right, don't wait, because some of your 6300 may with some of the customization, and our partner really need time to help you to upgrade. Don't wait until the last minute, right? And actually the partner resource also quite limited. And now, right, you will be in rush, either potentially, right, 6300 is ready, but you're not able to upgrade to the latest version, enjoying these actually convenience, actually issuing the invoice from 6300. Okay, that's all. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay. On behalf of Sage team and our presenter, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. We will see you shortly, soon. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.